Behavioral interview questions are incredibly popular. An example would be, tell me about a time when you went above and beyond to help a customer. They're really popular because it forces you into recalling a previous experience and walking the interviewer through what it was you did to resolve the situation or how you acted in the moment. But what if you don't have an example? What if they ask about a very specific situation that you have never been in? Well, in today's video, I'm going to tell you what you should do in these moments. I'm going to give you 2 examples of things you should not do, and I'm going to give you 2 examples of things you should do to make sure you maximize this opportunity. Let's go. Hi everybody, I'm Ben White with Ben Talks Talent. I've got 12 years experience in interviewing, hiring, and recruiting, and I am passionate about using my experience to help you become the best candidate possible and land your next job. And today we're going to be talking about something really interesting, and it's answering behavioral interview questions when you don't have an example that lines up with their question. But before we get into the video topic, do me a favor. If you are new here, take 3 seconds, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you never miss one of my free videos that are all designed to help you. And if you are not new, welcome back. Now, let's get into the video. Now let's start with the bad. The first example of something you shouldn't do when they ask you an interview question, a behavioral one, is make an answer up. Now why? A lot of people might say this is a pretty good strategy. You know, they're looking for something specific, you don't have that, so you make up a story, but there's a few reasons why you should not. Now, the first reason is any good recruiter is going to have follow-up interview questions. So if someone gives me an example of something they've done, so say we refer back to the previous example, give me an example of a time where you went above and beyond for a customer. When someone gives me an answer, I'm going to probe and I'm going to ask, oh, okay, why did that happen? What did you learn? What was the most difficult part of that? Does that happen often? I'm going to probe with a series of questions, and if you are making up an example, unless you are super good at this, it might be really hard to stay consistent, not have any discrepancies in your stories, and potentially to recall them later. The other thing that might be a problem is remembering this example and talking about it later. Or if they do a reference check and they reference this answer, oh, Ben told me about a time when he did this. Were you his manager when he did this? You know, explain why this happened, etc. And then they're not able to verify it. For a handful of reasons, that's the first thing I would say, don't do this. The second strategy I would avoid is just saying, well, I've never had an experience like that. Or, oh, I've never encountered that. I never had an experience where I went above and beyond for a customer because I've never been in a customer-facing role. While true, this leaves opportunity on the table. So these are the 2 examples of things that I personally would suggest that you not do them. Now let's move on to the things you can do that maximize this opportunity on answering a behavioral interview question when you don't have that very specific experience. Now, the first thing I would recommend if they ask you a question and you don't have that background is saying, you know, that's a really good question and I don't have that experience. I haven't run into that very specific situation. However, in my time at blank company, I did have a very similar experience in which I think there's some relevant overlap. And then you go into explaining that, that specific thing that happened. A few things to remember here that's really important. First, whenever you're answering a behavioral interview question, you want to answer with the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. What this is a framework that allows you to answer any behavioral interview question. So start with situation. What was the specific situation? What was the task you need to accomplish? What was the action you specifically took? And then what was the result, the outcome? So remember, use that framework to answer it. Give them the example of the thing that you feel, while slightly different, is relevant to the behavior they're trying to identify in a candidate. And then at the end of that, explain why you thought they were similar enough that it made sense to share that as an example. So that is strategy 1. Why I like that is instead of just saying, I don't have that, it gives you an opportunity to pick something else, something where you went above and beyond, something where you made an impact, and tell the story. Again, it's not the exact same thing, but as long as you preface it by saying, you know, I haven't been in that experience, but let me tell you about a time where I encountered something similar, and let me tell you about how I handled it, it's still a way for you to maximize this opportunity and share something valuable with them. Now, the second way I would recommend answering this question is starting the same way, letting them know that you haven't encountered that before because it hasn't been a part of your role, and then 2, explaining to them what you would do. This is similar to kind of the second example of what not to do, right? Letting them know you don't have it, but instead of walking away and saying, I don't have that experience, what you're doing is you're taking it into your own hands and telling them what you would do. So this is theoretically, right? It's taking it from a past experience, something that happens, to theoretically telling them what you would do. I think it is key here when you're doing it, if you're talking about theoreticals and you're talking about what you would do if presented the situation, to try to align it with what makes sense about what you know about this role so far and what you know about the company in your actions, right? Ideally, if the company has cultural values, or they've got their culture website, or a page on their website that shows you their culture, their values, if there's something that would align nicely here, this is a good example to tie that in. So you can say, one of the things that's really important to me is having that serving mentality, and whether that's your internal customers in the past, like I've experienced, or external customers, I think it's incumbent upon you to do everything you can do to ensure they have a great experience. I saw on your website that one of your values is servanthood, and that aligns with me and how I feel, and I think it's how I would treat a customer if given the situation to go above and beyond to help them resolve an issue. So something like that, where you align it specifically with one of their values, and it's in line with how you would handle it hypothetically. So that's the second way. If you don't have the specific experience, you can let them know, hey, because of the roles I've been in the past, I haven't encountered this. However, this is what I think I would do, and here's why. It's important to tell them your thought process behind it so they can understand, okay, this is why Ben would do it. He hasn't had this situation before, but he would do this, and here's why. While not exactly what they're looking for when they ask that question, I do think it serves as a pretty solid substitute. So there you go. That's how you can handle behavioral interview questions when you don't have the specific experience. Again, don't make something up. Don't just say you don't have it. Instead, give them a similar occurrence, or hypothetically show them how you might handle a situation. Good luck in your next interview. You got this.